Hi, this is Kyle Blakely with Mark Waller, and this is a special live episode of We Have Issues here on election night. We're doing this in partnership this evening with the Gazette, coming to you live from the Gazette newsroom. We have a couple of Gazette folks with us right now to start out with. Vince Bizdek, who's the executive editor of the Gazette, the Denver Gazette, and Colorado Politics, and Bree Gent, who is the Colorado City government reporter for the Colorado Springs Gazette. And on the broadcast with us, also joining us virtually, is Eric Sonderman, the down the middle columnist for the Gazette. Eric's coming to us, I believe, possibly from Denver, maybe somewhere else in Colorado. So, Eric, glad to have you here. And I think what I want to do, if it's okay with everybody to kind of get started, we got a lot of races we're going to cover tonight. National, in Colorado, races and 14 ballot issues, and a lot of things we want to look at locally here in Colorado Springs and the Pikes Peak region. But to start with, I just want to kind of go down the line and have everybody maybe talk a little bit about what races you're most excited to look at tonight or most curious about. Could be national, state, or local. And then give us a bold prediction for something for the evening. So, Mark, why don't you go first?
All right. Well, first, I want to thank our sponsors. Obviously, we want to thank the Gazette for joining us live tonight. We really appreciate that. Furry Friends and Stubbies is our sponsors, and also Poor Richards. If you want to see, take your dog to Stubbies or to Furry Friends, just look in the comments below, and you can find their website and their phone numbers and check them out. And the same for Poor Richards. You know, Kyle, I'm excited tonight. I mean, we've been planning this for months and months and months. It's exciting to be here with such important people like Vince Bizdek and Bree. I mean, come on.
Likewise for us.
This is Colorado royalty right here. So we're pretty excited to be here tonight. I tell you, I mean, obviously everybody I think wants to see what's going to happen in the presidential election. Maybe one for me tonight that I'm actually least excited about. I mean, you know, it's kind of a real lesser of two evils. You know, there's kind of four votes out there. There's a vote for you, a vote against you, a vote for your opponent, and a vote against your opponent. Whoever wins tonight is going to win on votes against their opponent. I don't think they're going to win on votes for that particular candidate. So that's going to be interesting to watch. But for me, I think most intriguing is what happens in the United States Senate. I think the Republicans are going to take the Senate back, but it really comes down to by how many seats. I think it could be as many as 54 and as few as 51, but I think Republicans are going to take the U.S. Senate back tonight, and I'm excited to kind of key in on those races. And my bold prediction, we are going to get over 2,000 viewers on this podcast tonight. That's my bold prediction.
I didn't think that. I was thinking it was going to be more along the lines of one of the races, but that's good.
54 U.S. Republicans get 54 seats in the U.S. Senate.
Okay.
There you go.
Vince, how about you? What are you looking forward to?
Glad to be here. Thanks for having us, Kyle and Mark. Bree, thanks for joining us too. I'm really, really interested in this Proposition 131, the initiative to change the way we practice democracy and vote in Colorado. You know, it'll change the way we run our primaries. It'll be a wide open jungle primary without parties nominating people for that. So pretty much anybody can run. And then we'll have ranked choice voting where you have to win by 50%, and voters pick four candidates and rank them 1, 2, 3, 4. I just think that changes everything in Colorado, and we don't even know all the ways that'll impact how we vote and how our elections turn out. So I'm really intrigued by that one. I'm also very much intrigued by the presidential race, of course, but I'm intrigued in Colorado by Amendment H, which is this judicial discipline measure. The reason I'm really paying attention to that is we've done a lot of reporting by David Magoya, our investigative reporter, about the problems in the Supreme Court and how this whole scandal about paying somebody for their silence was covered up in the courts. And so I'm eager to see if voters do something about that and change the way we discipline judges in the state and really take discipline out of the hands of judges and put it into an independent body so the judges aren't judging themselves. So I'm really curious about that. My bold prediction, Mark and Kyle, I think we're going to know the results of the presidential election tonight. That's my bold prediction.
Wow.
Now, is that just before the sun comes up or before midnight or
Depends on how you define night.
Okay, I was going to say that.
I'll go out on a limb and say before midnight Mountain Time.
Okay.
All right.
That sounds good.
You want it bold.
All right. Bree, how about you?
That's bold.
Yeah. Thank you for having me. So I'm going to look toward our local races tonight. I think the big one in Colorado Springs, we have 2 competing ballot questions on recreational marijuana. And I think it'll settle this question once and for all here, right? So we have a council-backed question that will pretty much ban recreational marijuana facilities in Colorado Springs via our charter. Now it is already banned by ordinance, but then we have a competing resident-backed question that would authorize recreational sales. My bold prediction will be that Colorado Springs voters are going to authorize recreational sales. I just think that we've had a change in voter demographics. We have a lot of younger people here. And I think this will be the year. But, in 2022, I think that question, when we last voted on it, was predicted to pass and it failed. So we could see this fail, but my bold prediction is that it will pass.
Wow, interesting that you think it's a bold prediction. I've thought that was going to pass all along.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's when we made our guesses the other day on the podcast.
That's right.
I guess I think I was the only one that said I thought that was going to pass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think it comes down to changing demographics and the way people feel about marijuana in the state of Colorado.
Yeah.
So I'm not for it, but I think it is going to pass.
Yeah. And I am for it. And I think I said I thought it wasn't going to pass.
Yeah.
Right.
So we'll see. Who knows? Eric, how about if you have an opportunity, tell us kind of what you think or what you're most looking forward to tonight and what your bold prediction is.
Well, thanks, Kyle and Mark and all of you for having me. I'm coming to you from our home in Denver, where I'm watching this intently tonight and expect it to be a late one. I think Vince stole my bold prediction, but I'll get there in a sec. Obviously, the presidential race, in terms of what we're watching, dwarfs everything else. And I think the whole country is on tenterhooks in terms of where that race is going to go and when we're going to figure it out. Locally, I'm certainly paying attention to 3 congressional districts. Obviously, CD8, the mud fight between Yadiro Caraveo and Gabe Evans has captured everyone's attention. That is right at the margin. We'll see where it goes. I'm also curious about CD3 and CD4, the old Boebert seat and new Boebert seat. I assume both of them will probably go according to form, which is Republican. If Adam Frisch is able to mount an upset in CD3, despite it being a 9 or 10 point performing Republican district, that would be very notable. And that would be a very significant upset if Jeff Hurd is not the new congressperson over there. And then we'll also see out in CD4 if Lauren Boebert's big gambit that she played, the card she played last December of switching districts, if that's successful. And my surmise is it will be successful. That's an overwhelmingly Republican district. It would take an upset of historic proportions for that not to work. And then I'll just echo Vince in terms of Colorado ballot issues. I think 131 is, the whole game. I think it is fascinating. I've editorialized or opinionated, whatever you want to say, in favor of it in my column. I know it's being accused of being imperfect. As I point out, I'm not sure perfection is the bar that we're using or the standard we're using for our current political system. And I certainly think anything that these days drives politics, even marginally, in a little bit from those extremes is worth pursuing. And I think this would have that effect over the long term. In Denver, I'm interested in what Denver voters are going to do on a number of tax measures, the tax for Denver Health, Mike Johnston, Mayor Johnson's tax for affordable housing, and then the Denver Public School bond issue. Denver being Denver, if I was to bet, I would bet all three will pass, but perhaps there'll be a wild card in there with maybe Johnston's affordable housing thing being the most problematic. Bold prediction, as I said, Vince stole it. I was going to say, and even though as I'm starting to watch early returns, I'm already doubting that this may necessarily be the case, but I came into the night thinking that we would probably know late tonight or by the time most people wake up, at sunrise kind of time tomorrow morning. I think I will stay with that. Since Vince stole it, I'll go even bolder. Say the gender gap will be on steroids tonight. I mean, the gender gap in this country has been growing and building for election cycle after election cycle. It will be bigger than ever tonight. And if Kamala Harris is going to break that glass ceiling and be delivered the presidency, it will only be a function of historic enthusiasm and turnout among women.
Yeah, Eric. Go there. Yeah, I'm curious, Eric, what you think about. Let's get this. There we go. Yeah, Eric, I'm just a little bit curious what you think about the CD3 race. I don't think I heard who you thought was going to win there. I assume Hurd, but in an 8, is Carveo going to end up carrying the day? I know that's a really close race.
I think, Hurd certainly is the favorite to win CD3. It would be a very significant upset for Hurd not to win that district. If it was going to be Frisch against Boebert, which looked to be the case a year ago, I thought Frisch was in that game. Hurd is much more of a consensus kind of Republican. So my presumption is Hurd wins that, and anything short of that is a huge upset. In CD8, if I was to bet a nickel, I'm not going to bet real money. If I was to bet a nickel, I'd put it on Caraveo. Simply power of incumbency. And, Democrats in this state for election cycle after election cycle of late, as you know, Mark, have won all those close races. And, until proven otherwise, I'll go by default with the Democrat.
Couldn't agree more. And certainly, I think one of the things that we're going to be looking at tonight, speaking of Republicans not doing well in the state of Colorado, is what happens in the state Senate and the state House. Republicans have not picked up a seat in the state House since 2010. So another bold prediction, Republicans actually have a net gain of a seat in the state House. Could be as many as 5, but it's kind of one of those deals where I think it is a bold prediction because I'll believe it when I see it, without a doubt.
Yeah.
And I guess the only thing other one I'd chime in on, Mark, in terms of your comment or your bold prediction about 54.
Any results coming in from Colorado. But we are starting to see quite a few things at, some of the early states, some of the, what I call the gimme states being called in the presidential race. No surprises yet. What I'm seeing is with what has been called right now, Trump has about 90 electoral votes. Harris has 27, but no surprises at this point. So.
Yeah, you're seeing a lot of the states in the South go Trump ways, in the Northeast go for Harris. I think the first ones we'll really start to see are North Carolina and Georgia, right? Because they count pretty fast. They've already closed their polls, and they'll be the biggest indicators, I think, early on of who might have a upper hand. I think if Harris starts to lead in one of those states and looks like she might win North Carolina, then I think she has a really possible path to the 270 electoral votes. If Trump looks pretty solid in both, it's going to be harder for her, right? She has to win the whole blue wall of Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin. And the big question mark tonight is Pennsylvania, right? Don't you guys think?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, without a doubt. But I think that kind of an interesting thing you brought up, Vince, in terms of talking about North Carolina is, I think there is a chance that Kamala Harris wins North Carolina. In fact, I was just talking to one of my buddies, a political advocate who lives in North Carolina, and he says, if you'd said it a week ago, I would have said Trump all the way, but the data is looking a little bit different in North Carolina. But I think if Trump loses North Carolina, does it then put that U.S. Senate seat in play?
Oh, that's a great question.
That people think the Republican's going to win that seat. It's not one that folks are tracking, but some of my Democrat friends out there have been saying, not so fast on North Carolina. That may actually end up, if Trump loses North Carolina, then
Coattails.
the Democrats, the coattails could mean that the Democrats pick up that Senate seat as well.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Kyle.
Oh, I was just going to say, being kind of a polling and statistical nerd, for the last several weeks, every day, I'm just trying to look at things and see.
So you're not sleeping at night then?
Well, yeah.
And without a doubt, you are a polling and political nerd. So yes.
Yeah, and very much so. And so I'm always looking for little things like here and there, like Eric was talking about it looks like there's going to be a strong turnout of women voters. And if so, that could bode well for Harris. A little bit ago, I'm looking online at some of the early returns and things, and they're talking about, in Georgia right now with exit polls, which I'm always suspect of exit polls, more so than other type of polls, but Trump was leading independents by 11 points and Biden won independents by 9 points in that state 4 years ago. So there you're going, that's interesting. Well, then there was a blue county in Georgia a little bit ago that they had returns for, and Harris was outperforming Biden by 7 points in that county. Another one, they were talking about a suburb up in Indianapolis, where Trump was ahead by 10 points, and he won that same area by 18 points 4 years ago. So you start to look at all these little things, and it can drive you crazy. You can really start to speculate, but either way, I think it's going to be interesting. Again, at this point tonight, we don't have any surprises, but maybe we will here pretty soon.
One thing I'm curious to see how it turns out is the turnout. Kamala Harris has a great ground game, incredibly well disciplined and well organized. And I just wonder if that's going to make a difference here in the final moments of this campaign. Donald Trump outsourced his to Elon Musk and some other folks who don't have that much experience with it. And I've also heard reporting from around the country that they've kind of divided the strength of their ground game between turning voters out, getting them to the polls, and getting ready to challenge results, which may be important, but they got to win the vote first. So I just wonder if that's going to dilute their ground game, and Harris might have the better ground game. I don't know what that will result in. Usually it's 1 or 2 points sometimes at the most, but it's just an interesting kind of last minute development here. One thing I'm really curious about, and a lot of those people who are they're trying to turn out are women. And Bree, I wonder if you'd speak to this. It's like, how do you think women are reacting to this race? Are they, you feel like they're pretty animated this year? Are you hearing that among the people you talk to and your friends and family and other colleagues?
Yeah, I have friends who are excited to vote for Kamala. They want to see a woman in the Oval Office. But that's not, there's this idea, are you voting for a woman just because you're a woman? But at least people I've talked to, my friends are saying, no, they align with her on policy. And they have daughters and they feel like she's the person that they want to see in the Oval Office. So, but I think you're right. I think, this will be decided by women voters who are galvanized to come out and cast their votes this election.
I know early voting in a lot of states was like, I think in Pennsylvania, early voting was 55-45 women. I don't know if that'll hold up after Election Day. Vince, you were talking about the ground game. I mean, in Pennsylvania, even a 1 point ground game turnaround can be the deciding thing there.
It's so close.
Yeah, and that could decide the whole race. Saw something the other day. Somebody I follow on X or something was talking about, and you never know what exactly is real and what's not real. But somebody was talking about their college student in Pennsylvania had been like called 5 times, texted 5 times, and got like 12 pieces of mail from Harris and not one thing from Trump. Now, again, they're probably a registered Democrat.
Right.
You know, you do your targeting right.
Right.
Maybe you're not crossing over, but again, just a real difference in the ground game there, I think.
Eric, I was wondering what you think about the polls and if you think they're pretty on target.
Well, we'll have that answer soon enough, and within hours or a day or two, and we'll be able to make that judgment. I mean, as you guys just pointed out, even a 1-point swing, much less any kind of late-breaking trend, all these polls have basically been calling it a 50-50 or 49-49 kind of race. So any little boost makes all the difference. The last 2 cycles, 2016 and 2020, the polls understated Trump's performance. If that is the case again today, Trump will fare very well, and because the polls show him even. Now, there is some school of thought out there that the pollsters, having been embarrassed in many cases in 16 and 20, have corrected and perhaps overcorrected here. The value of polling is all in who do you expect, what do you expect the electorate to look like, and how do you develop your sample, and how do you weight your sample? And different pollsters do it differently. I tend to go to sites like Real Clear Politics or 538 or others that don't rely on one poll, but aggregate a whole bunch of polls and make their judgment that way. And then just in terms of tonight, I think Kyle really nailed it. In these early hours for people watching TV or one eye on the podcast and one eye on the television, you know, it's not so much a matter in North Carolina or Pennsylvania or other swing states of how Trump is doing versus Harris, because you don't know where those specific votes are coming from. Is how is Harris doing compared to how Biden performed in that specific county 4 years ago? How is Trump doing in 2024 compared to Trump in 2020 in that specific county? And then you can start making some judgments of what this election looks like compared to the election 4 years ago.
Interesting point you make there, Eric, about the Trump bias being built into the polling data in this election cycle. You know, I think that, you know, he's consistently outperformed the polls over the last 3 or 4 cycles, and I think we really tried to drill down into why that is and what's happened. And I think the conventional wisdom is, hey, there are a lot of people that lie when they get called that are actually supporting Trump but are embarrassed to say that they are. So I think the question for tonight becomes, have the pollsters adequately built that into the polling models in order to more accurately determine the outcome of this election? I guess time will tell.
You know, I heard one interesting analysis on that front, that most polls have sort of been reweighted to try to account for that, you know, Trump bump, and that they've changed their methodology. But there's one poll that didn't, and that was the Iowa poll. And that showed actually Harris winning Iowa, which I thought was interesting. That's the Des Moines Register poll.
Yeah, and Seltzer, and very well respected.
And they said that wasn't weighted to adjust for Trump, while a lot of polls have been.
You know, I talked to our friend Joe McCloskey, who's going to be on later tonight, about that Des Moines Register poll, and said, you know, what's happening there? Why does that all of a sudden just show Kamala up 3 points? And he says, for the Democrats, that is just more about screwing with Trump than it was about actual polling data being accurate. So we'll see. He's like, he just dismissed it out of hand. Nah, Kamala isn't winning Iowa. There's no chance. That was all to F with Trump.
Yeah, I saw some really interesting things lately. Obviously, that poll, which over the weekend just kind of threw everybody online into a tizzy trying to figure that one out, because she is so well respected and has in the past had polls very close to the final results in Iowa. But that's why when you do polling, there's a 95% confidence level. You're at times going to have outliers. And so that very well could have been an outlier very easily. But I also saw something last week, since I'm a native of Kansas, and that's usually a 20-point Trump win. There was a Kansas poll last week that showed him only up 5 points.
Really?
Kansas has a Democrat governor. So I don't know. Maybe maybe some of that stuff is accurate. I don't know. But boy, you can drive yourself crazy looking at them throughout the last couple of months.
Well, I mean, I think here's what we know better than anything. Polling data hasn't gotten it right at all in the last 3 or 4 cycles. I mean, maybe it's been within a few points here and there, but really, I think polling data has been off. Again, we'll see if the models have corrected for that Trump bias. I don't know, but at the end of the night, I really don't think we will know what the final result is. Just because I do not understand why they don't do this. Why Pennsylvania doesn't count their votes early.
Right. They start counting their mail-in ballots on the morning of Election Day, correct?
Yeah,
Well, now they realize they can be in the spotlight more. So there's
I-
no point in counting them early.
This is one of those areas where you don't want to be in the spotlight, I think.
Yeah.
Especially, as they're counting these, if it takes a week, 2 weeks, even, 3 or 4 days, it seems like a lot of the conspiracy theories suck up all that oxygen in the room. And next thing you know, it's all about, no matter how it's going, it's all about cheating somehow.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think, Bree?
Yeah, I think I don't know that we'll see results tonight either. I would love to see results tonight.
Skeptics.
Yeah.
It is a bold prediction, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you said bold.
Yeah, that's right.
I saw where they've already called Florida. I mean, obviously it's been a Trump state in the past.
Really?
Sometimes it's been pretty close, but they've already called Florida for Trump.
I think I think Florida has started in the last few cycles trending more Republican. It's becoming less of a swing state, and it's becoming more of a red state, just like, Colorado used to be a swing state and is now solidly blue.
Mark, do you think we'll ever get back to being a swing state, or what's got to happen for?
Yeah,
Ranked choice voting.
let's say, I mean, listen, Republicans can't screw up more under the current system.
I don't
So,
see how they
maybe
can,
we have
yeah.
a different, Vince, I mean, here's what I think is I have this discussion with my friends all the time. And, obviously we've gone blue for a few reasons. One, I think we have changing demographics in the state. I think that's one. 2, gerrymandering in all of these state legislative districts. Really, like, what do we have up tonight? 17 state Senate seats are up for grabs tonight, and we're literally going to talk about 4 of them. And probably 2 of the 4 that we're going to talk about really aren't even that competitive. So I think the way the seats have been gerrymandered is causing a problem. 3, I think the other issue is, and it's hard for me to say, but as a Republican, we have figured out ways to snatch defeat from the jaws of victory more times than I can count. And as you all know, I mean, we've chronicled it well. The Republican Party is an absolute mess in the state of Colorado today. And until Republicans figure out how to work together and actually make the Republican Party a big tent again, we are not going to be successful in this state. But there are those people out there. Dave Williams, our state party chair, seems to think the way that we become successful in the state of Colorado's Republicans is addition through subtraction. We just need to get more pure. We don't have room in this party for people who might think a little bit differently than he does. I've been called a rhino, a Republican in name only so much, I think I'm starting to grow a horn.
Well, listen, Kyle, I think Bree and I got to jump off and actually go do some work here.
Okay, and then I think Brennan's going to join us next.
Brennan's gonna join
and then
us?
I think Ernest Lunning, is he in the waiting room yet online? Hopefully he'll be joining
Okay,
us here.
I'll make sure Ernest jumps on here.
Okay,
Thanks for having us, guys.
you
I
bet.
sure we'll talk
can't
more
wait
later.
to see you
Yeah,
come
we'll talk
back
to you
later
then.
on tonight.
Okay.
We're going to be here all night long.
All right, guys. Thanks. Appreciate it. Take care.
Well, Kyle, anything so far that's
There is nothing that I've seen that's surprising yet.
of the estimated vote is from Pennsylvania. In Battleground, Michigan, Kamala Harris has 57.6% of the vote.
Reporter,
From Pennsylvania, 45% of the vote. Harris with a 50,000 plus vote
from what I
lead.
understand,
With
kind of
6% of the estimated vote in
really
from Michigan.
paid a
Still a
lot
lot
of
of votes.
attention to lately
In
with the
Battleground, North Carolina, Harris in the
the
lead there.
turnout here in
49.8% of the vote, but Donald Trump bringing up the rear. 48.9% of the
Yeah,
vote.
last update we got
Harris has right now a 7,200, approximately 7,200 vote lead. That's with 14% of the estimated vote in North Carolina County. In Battleground, Georgia, Donald Trump in the lead with 55.4% of the vote. Kamala Harris bringing up the rear with 44%
sheer
of the vote.
numbers
Donald
think we're
Trump
going to be
with a healthy
really high. I think the question is
342,000.
going to be whether it's the same turnout rate as the last couple presidential elections or not.
Yeah, because that 350, that's about 70% of the El Paso County, 70% turnout by 2 p.m.
Somewhere around there, yeah. And the last couple elections ended at about 85% turnout. So with how long some of the in-person stuff is getting at some of the locations, I think we're going to be in the same ballpark.
Yeah, and I think that's what we've seen over the last few cycles. I mean, certainly we've had a lot more early voting since 2016 in the state of Colorado. People become more comfortable with that, and that really has driven turnout up. I'm curious to know, is there any sort of breakdown by, in El Paso County here, Colorado Springs, we have a couple of legislative districts that are going to be keys tonight and up for grabs. We have the House District 16 race, and we have the Senate District 10 race, I believe, or 12. Senate District 12 race. Any breakdown in terms of turnout in specific districts?
Not yet, as far as I've seen. I think all the results so far, just the early voting ones, those are all county-wide at the moment. But once the polls close, I think things will start breaking down.
What about demographic wise? Do we know, like, in terms of, are more Republicans voting than Democrats, more independents than or unaffiliateds than?
Unaffiliateds are definitely the biggest share. They're about, I think the last number I saw was 40 to 43%, which is a little bit less in the total makeup in the county, I know. So they're a little bit relatively down, which I think is not uncommon for elections like this. And then Republicans, biggest share after that in the county, and then Democrats.
Nice. Are there any local races you've been paying attention to as well, and besides turnout?
So the main one I'm going to be writing about tonight is the 2C ballot measure in Colorado Springs, which is the renewal of the sales tax for road maintenance and road repairs.
Yeah.
So the city's going for a 10-year extension of the current tax rate. So I think we will see about the appetite for that. I honestly just started here in October, so I don't have a great feeling about some of that yet. But I think it'll be very interesting. Potentially either way, it's just a vote of confidence of how voters feel about that measure, about the work the city's been doing on that.
That's what I was thinking too. Again, I think it's going to pass, but it's the margin that'll be the determination there, because that's one of those silo taxes that we have here in Colorado Springs, public safety, roads, parks, and open space. And to me, if it's up in that 70, 75, 80% range, that's a pretty big vote of confidence. TOPS was renewed with 80%. I think the either public safety or wastewater was reapproved or whatever with those kinds of numbers, or PPRTA. It was PPRTA that was also. So, but if it's down closer to 50% or even under 60%, then you got to wonder.
Yeah, I think the last time the city voted on 2C, it passed with basically 2/3 in favor. So I do think anything less than that is going to be notable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't see that change in tonight. I think one of the things that the city's done really well with 2C over the years is identify exactly what those dollars are going to be used for. And then they've kind of stuck to their word and used those dollars for very specific projects. And I think that's why it passes with overwhelming support. And I see that passing with overwhelming support again tonight. Hey, if you're watching us online live, whether it's via X, Facebook, or some other a way to watch us live, please feel free to drop us a comment in the comments section. If you have a question for us, drop us a question as well, and we'll try to get to those as the night goes on. But so far, it looks like nothing, Kyle, out of the ordinary. It looks like all the states that have been called so far have been called, or most of the states have been called so far, called for President Trump, but that's not unexpected.
Yeah, exactly. There's still nothing that's showing up as any kind of a state that's flipped from one party to the other since 2020. So, is Ernest in? Okay, he should be joining us any second. Ernest Lenning, one of the reporters for Colorado Politics and the Gazette, be able to talk to us a little bit about, again, anxious to hear what he's most interested in, what he thinks might be surprises for the evening, or if he might have a bold prediction for us.
Well, I think we have our friend Rachel Beck ready to come in too here. She's going to join us live here in just a few minutes.
Okay.
Talk
great.
about, she's got some fun facts to talk about in terms of ballot initiatives in the state of Colorado. So I'm on the edge of my seat waiting to hear what those are.
Nice.
But again, I think so far everything's happening as expected tonight. If you have a comment for us, please leave us a comment in the comment section. If you have a question, please ask us that there as well. We also want to just thank once again our sponsors for being a part of this broadcast with us tonight. We are so excited for the first time to have sponsors. We really appreciate the Gazette and the opportunity to broadcast live in partnership with them from the Gazette studios here in downtown Colorado Springs. And if you need to get your pet groomed, please join our friends and sponsor at Furry Friends or Stubby's Grooming. You can get their phone numbers in the comments below or website options. If you mention that you heard them on our podcast here tonight, they're going to give you $5 off their next purchase. I got to tell you, Kyle, I take my dog to Stubby's in Monument all the time, and
Nice.
He absolutely loves going there. And the thing I love about it the most, he smells good when I get him back.
Nice. Nice.
Because dogs
Yes.
don't always smell the best.
Especially with the weather you get up there.
That's right. Well, and he likes to run hard. And, we got his, my dog's name is Benny. We got his vote for Benny bandana on tonight in honor of the election.
Very nice.
So we're pretty excited about that.
So, Rachel's on.
What are we doing?
Give us 2 minutes. We're going to take an intervention real quick.
All right. We're going to be taking just a little break for 2 minutes here, and we'll be back. Please stay with us on the We Have Issues podcast.